Today, I'm going to attempt to make this into a classy leather portfolio for Mrs. Tinkerer because she's one classy lady. Let's get started. The first thing I did to make our leather portfolio is make some templates out of acrylic. This way, I can make it again if I want to. Also, I use these templates with my rolling cutter to cut our leather. We're using a 3 to 4 ounce cowhide. This is basically how all the pieces lay out. I'm using a pencil to transfer the marks from my template onto my leather, and then with my square I draw a straight line. These are going to be the guides to help me glue it up. This is the template for the inner pin and pocket subassembly. You can see I've scratched all the cut marks into the acrylic. Also, I've drilled holes where the holes need to be punched. Now I'm transferring these holes with my scratch awl and using the same awl to mark the leather where the stitches go. I'm just using a paint can to draw the radius on the front of the large pocket, and a smaller stain can for the smaller pocket. And there's our marked leather. Now I'm punching the holes on the ends of the pin strap and then connecting the holes with a razor blade knife. There's our pin holder. Now I'm going to cut out the radiuses on the front of each of the pockets. It's time for a little stain. Mrs. Tinkerer picked out the black water stain. This is just the initial coat, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm punching a hole for our snap. And using our snap tool, we're going to peen the snap over so it doesn't come off. I insert some papers in all the sub-assemblies inside the portfolio to simulate it being full, and then, just pressing the snap into the leather, I mark where the female side goes, and punch a hole with my awl. Now I enlarge this hole with our hole punch. And using our snap tool, I affix the female side of the snap as well. Before we assemble anything, we need to go ahead and burnish the edge of the pockets. We won't be able to get to these very easily after it's assembled. Now to use some contact cement to assemble it. We're working on the inner pocket sub-assembly. We just put contact cement on both sides and let it dry to the touch. And then we have one shot to get it lined up and stuck together. After pressing it in with my fingers, I take my little hammer and pound all the seams, making doubly sure that everything is stuck well. Now I'm putting in the flap that's going to hold our notebook on the other side. I'm using the same technique here. This is a grooving tool. It's going to cut a shallow groove in the leather, and this is the line we're going to follow as we stitch the portfolio. Not only do I have to make grooves down the edges, I have to make grooves on the field of the pocket assembly, anywhere we're going to be stitching. Now using our diamond hole punch, we're going to lay out our stitch holes. At this point, it's not necessary that we go all the way through with the punch. We're basically just laying out the holes evenly spaced. Here's where we're actually going all the way through. I cut the head off of a 3-penny finish nail and chucked it into my drill press, and this cuts through multiple layers of leather like hot butter. Now we're going to put a second coat of stain on, making sure to get all the grooves we cut and the edges as well. We got to go ahead and pre-stitch the pockets for the inner subassembly because later we won't be able to get to it when it's installed. I've made some upgrades to my stitching pony. I made this garage that fits over the knob so that my string doesn't get caught on it, and I put some rare earth magnets in it to hold the needles when not in use. I've been meaning to make a cover for the knob for a while. It sure is nice not having the thread get caught on it every few minutes. As far as the magnet idea, that came from a viewer comment on my stitching pony video. It's a great tip. Now I'm just using my little hammer to smash down the thread line. Now, with some contact cement, we're going to glue in the inner subassembly to the portfolio. And that consists of the same steps as before, getting everything lined up and then using the little hammer to make sure it's adhered. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark the outside edge for the stitches. And then after drilling it, I stitch it once again in the stitching pony. When I get to the last stitch, I put both threads through the same side and cut it off, and then I burn the ends. Now I'm burnishing the edges of the portfolio. And now the third and final coat of stain. This really just evens everything up. Now I'm going to use some leather balm. I like to use this on all my leather products. It gives it a nice shine and it protects it as well. Installing the notepad in the portfolio is as simple as sliding the cardboard behind the flap. There's plenty of room for pens, pencils, and markers, and a big pocket to put any loose paper in. I can't believe how nice this turned out. It's the first one I've ever made. I didn't have any plans to go by, I just had a few pictures Mrs. Tinkerer had found online, each one having a different feature that she liked. So I just kind of incorporated it, figured out the sizing on my own, and made this. The good thing is I made some acrylic templates so that I can repeat this size if I ever need to, or I could alter it slightly if need be also. The things she had to have on this were she wanted the envelope style fold, and Mrs. Tinkerer is left-handed, so she wanted it laid out for a left-handed person. She wanted a place to hold her pens, various pockets, and a place to put loose papers. I think we accomplished everything she wanted. Appreciate you coming along on the ride with me. Hey, why don't you be classy like Mrs. Tinkerer and consider subscribing over here? Check out some videos below me too. I think you're going to like them. See you next time.